In this video, I'll provide an overview of the Barbaresco region. Barbaresco is a great choice for wine collectors because these wines are very age-worthy and they can gain tremendous complexity with additional bottle age. At their peak, Barbaresco wines can be absolutely mesmerizing. Unfortunately, Barbaresco tends to be overshadowed by Barolo a bit, both because it's only 1/3 the size and because many people assume that Barolo is better. But of course, on this channel, regardless of what region you're talking about anywhere in the world, I always encourage selectivity by producer. Another great thing about Barbaresco is that the wines can typically be enjoyed a little bit earlier than their Barolo counterparts, for reasons that I'll discuss in this video. The Barbaresco DOCG was established in 1980 and takes its name from the village of Barbaresco. Nevertheless, the Barbaresco region includes not just the geographic territory of the village of Barbaresco, but also all the territory in the villages of Treso and Neve, as well as a small part of Alba. The best vineyards in Barbaresco are typically planted on south and southwest facing slopes at elevations ranging from 150 meters to 350 meters above sea level, although there are some vineyards that are planted as high as 550 meters above sea level. These locations are ideal because they allow the vineyards to have ideal sun exposure and also receive some cooling influences. The Barbaresco region shares many characteristics with the Barolo region, except that the vineyards are typically located at slightly lower elevations and the climate is slightly warmer in Barbaresco. This slightly warmer climate is significant as it means that harvest is typically a week earlier in Barbaresco, which can be important if there's fall rains approaching. This is so because one of the characteristics of Nebbiolo is that it's a late ripening grape. Perhaps more importantly, however, the slightly warmer climate also reveals itself in the glass. In many instances, you'll find that Barbaresco can be a little bit more elegant, a little bit less austere, and capable of enjoying at an earlier time than Barolo. In addition, Barolo is not quite as able to withstand some of the hotter vintages as Barbaresco. In contrast, Barbaresco typically can have a little bit more freshness and have some very impressive wines, even in some very hot vintages. The main reason for this is the presence of the Toronto River and the fact that Barbaresco receives its cooling influences during hotter vintages, whereas Barolo does not, because the influence of the Toronto River is blocked in Barolo by the Lamora Ridge. Barbaresco's slightly riper style is also reflected in shorter minimum aging requirements. Barbaresco DOCG must mature for 26 months before release, 9 months of which must be in oak, and Barbaresco Reserva DOCG must mature for 50 months before release, including 9 months of that time period in oak. There's also a 12.5% minimum alcohol by volume requirement, but that's typically not an issue. These maturation requirements add to the production costs for Barbaresco, but less so than the minimum aging requirements in Barolo, since those are longer. Barbaresco must be 100% Nebbiolo, so no additional grapes can be blended in. Nebbiolo is a black variety that's early budding, which means that it's potentially vulnerable to spring frosts that can reduce yields. In addition, Nebbiolo is also a late ripening grape, so there can sometimes be issues with this grape getting fully ripe before the fall rains hit. Wines made from Nebbiolo, such as Barbaresco, are typically pale ruby in color, with pronounced intensity of both aromas and flavors. Descriptors often include red cherry, red plum, violets, and rose. They can often have high acidity and high tannins, and they typically have medium plus to full body and a medium plus to high alcohol level. Historically, Barbaresco producers blended fruit from a number of different vineyards to create their wines. This blending can have a number of different advantages, as for example, if the fruit from one vineyard is very ripe, it has a little bit less acidity, and you have fruit from another vineyard that has a little bit less ripe fruit, but impressive acidity. By blending that fruit and creating a wine, you can have a better wine than if you bottled wines from each of those vineyards separately. These classic blends continue to be extremely important in Barbaresco, and generally offer the best price points and most affordable wines. However, Barbaresco also has long had a reputation as having some extremely high-quality single vineyards. Examples include Asili and Rabella. Like Pinot Noir, however, Nebbiolo is also capable of producing different results and also tends to reflect the site on which it is grown. For that reason, in the 1960s, top producers such as Bruno Giacosa and Angelo Gaia took a page from the Burgundy playbook and began to bottle and produce single vineyard Barbaresco wines. In 2007, there was an official system of subzones introduced within the rules of the Barbaresco DOCG. These regulations were amended slightly in 2010, and the upshot is that there are now 66 different geographic mentions or subzones that can be stated on labels of Barbaresco wines. In addition, the word viña or vineyard can only be used on the labels for Barbaresco if it's used in connection with the officially recognized MGA. On this channel, I'm always a big fan of buying wines from the best vintages for a particular region. And when you're talking about Barbaresco, some of the very best vintages for the past 50 or 60 years include 1964, 1970 and 1971, 1978, 1982, 1989, 1996, 1999, 2001, 2004, 2006, 2010, 2013, 2015 and 16, and 2019. Currently, you'll also see a lot of the 2020 Barbarescos on store shelves, and I've had an opportunity to taste many of those wines. My thoughts regarding the 2020 vintage is that whereas 2019 was very much a classic vintage, and those wines will definitely benefit from some additional age in your cellar, 2020 was definitely a warmer vintage, and so these wines are definitely much more approachable, and they're less austere, and pretty much ready to enjoy right now, if not in the next couple of years. So I would definitely be on the lookout for 2020 Barbaresco if you're looking for a cellar defender, or if you're looking to enjoy a wine in the near term. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see my companion video on the Barolo region and my favorite 7 producers from that region, please be sure to check out this video that's linked above.